Welcome to Belief, Being, and Beyond with your host, Granddaughter Crow.
Have fun. So, hi, everybody. Granddaughter Crow here with another episode of Belief, Being, and Beyond. And I have got some special guests for you today. Now, I know I always have special guests, but this is coming at things from a different angle. We have with us Julia Halina Hadas, best-selling author, Witchcraft Cocktails, yo. I mean, seriously, I want to pick that book up just because celebrating the Sabbath, celebrating the full moons, let's do this right, you know? Also, Moon Magic Mixology and the Modern Witchcraft Book of Astrology, as well as the Modern Witchcraft Book of Moon Magic. And so we're looking at an author here, but that is not all that Julia is. Also, certified Reiki crystal energy worker, and I believe shaman. So we're going to get into that. But here's the catch. My friend Joelle at the Viola Witch on Insta, gotta follow you guys because Joelle and I connected on Instagram because Joelle was following and sharing about LlewelynCon 2024. Then I see Joelle is following and sharing different artists and books and people that I've had on my show, and as well as me, and also plays the viola, and just we've become really kind of dynamic friends. Joelle actually went and had an online session via Zoom, energy Reiki session with Julia. So here we get both Julia, the practitioner, as well as Joelle, and we get to see what this dynamic is like. So, Julia, say hello to the Belief, Being, and Beyond audience.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me. And I have to say, I'm having a little bit of like a dumb moment because, like, Joelle, I didn't even realize from your Instagram name, like, I didn't think of like viola, the instrument. Like, I was like looking at that and I was like, until you
That is
just said
not
it
just
just
you.
now.
That is not just you, girl.
And so I was like, oh, it makes sense now. Anyway, I love that.
Love it. And so, Joelle, say hi to the Belief, Being, and Beyond audience. Yo.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Granddaughter Crow, for having us today. This is so exciting, and I'm really happy to be here.
Oh, this is so much fun. So, Julia, you know, you have, okay, long distance Reiki. This is the interesting thing that I want to explain and kind of help to reveal to the Belief, Being, Beyond audience and listeners is that energy is beyond space and time. So that means that you can receive this energy past, present, future, as well as long distance without like interrupting the potency of the energy. Talk to us a little bit, Joelle, about what you do, how you came to do what you do, and then touch on how you do this long distance Reiki.
Did you mean Julia? Sorry, I was just,
Oh, Julia, who did
oh,
I
no, it's
say?
fine. Our names are close enough.
Was I just saying Joelle? Okay, cut.
That's fine.
We're gonna
I just wanted to make sure. I was like,
we
Yes,
might
I've become a Reiki master in 5 days. It's really amazing.
we're gonna have
Not.
to leave this in because I am just so it's not even Mercury retrograde, people. This
yeah,
is
it feels like
just
it though.
Granddaughter Crow, really, really excited. So bleep all of that. Julia, talk to us about how you did Reiki, came to it, and how it is, how you can do long distance.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you hit the head right on the nail, right? Of like a core idea behind working with energy and energy medicine, whether it is in witchcraft or energy work or just general spiritual practices, is the idea that energy extends beyond, the physical body, beyond time, right? And space. And so there's certain techniques or modalities, especially in Reiki, we have a specific symbol to work with to help facilitate distance work, and a lot of different energy traditions do have their own way of doing long distance work and stuff. So the primary part I stand with there is also making sure I'm asking for permission, I'm calling that person's energy in, connecting with their guides, having my guides, help facilitate and strengthen that connection, and then using symbols and all that stuff. And I think it is a really beautiful thing because a lot of times, like, people aren't really sure about energy work. I was surprised because I was doing these testimonial sessions for distance sessions because I used to do all in person. How many people just hadn't had like an energy work session before? I think we take it for granted being in the community sometimes. And so, being able to share and show that they can have that experience distance and seeing what they felt with what I was doing and the crystals that I was using, it's really a beautiful experience, honestly.
I absolutely love that. So definitely check out Julia Halina at www.juliahalinahadas.com. You'll be able to find that in the show. So that kind of kicks us over to Joelle. Joelle, have you ever had like long distance energy or any type of energy work? Tell us a little bit about you and your experience, just basically, and then kind of go into what happened. How did you feel?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I have only been a witch for about a little over a year and a half. And before that, I was raised evangelical Christian and left that when I was in my 20s. Kind of floated around for a while before going to a crystal candle making class for my birthday. And that was the gateway. That was it for me. So I had never had any energy work done. I'd never gone to an in-person session. I never done a virtual session. And it has been on my list for quite some time because, I love to read, I love to research. As I got into learning more and more about not just witchcraft, but spiritual paths that are maybe not as common as major world religions, I found energy centers popping up all over the place. And so I've done a little bit of reading and knew that I wanted to do it. But for me, as far as my financial situation right now, it just wasn't really a reality. Now, what I do love is that when I started with Julia, she was like, "Oh, you should check out Reiki Share." Because these are some really great communities where if you don't necessarily have the funds for Reiki, you might be able to find some for, sliding scale, pay what you can, or even free, which is amazing. So I'm definitely going to check that out. But I was just scrolling through my Instagram and her post popped up and she was asking for some volunteers to try some virtual Reiki. And I was like, yeah, we're going to do this. So I messaged her and we worked it out. It all came together. So I knew it was meant to be. And it was just a fabulous first experience for me. And I didn't really know what to expect with it being online and distance. But Julia sends this really great email before you go through the session that has pretty much any information you could want, or, it addresses the questions you might have. And there was a little part, like she said in there, about how sometimes online Reiki can be even maybe a little more powerful than in person because of the symbols that she's using to connect with energy. So, yeah, I was all about it. And that's how we connected. And we had our session and wow, I could talk about it forever. It was so great.
I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. So, once again, and I've said this on the show before, candles and crystals are the gateway drug to witchcraft. Mic
Yes.
drop. It's so true. It's so true. So, that I love that. And I love what you guys are talking about because we're recording this in 2024. And so we're just like on the other side of the shutdown. But the shutdown really kind of broke up community, in person, face to face community. And so now we all kind of find ourselves online. But here's the beautiful part about the whole thing is that when you are doing just in person, you have your metro area. But when you go online, your community grows internationally. And I'm not just saying that for the authors and the healers, I'm saying that for the average person, if you want to learn anything about witchcraft, of course, follow follow Granddaughter Crow and Belief Being and Beyond, and I share a lot of different people. But Julia, talk to us a little bit about how your experience was from going from in person and online, and maybe talk a little bit about what Joelle said about the symbols that you use might make it more potent.
Yeah, for sure. And just to go off of what you were saying too, like, the expansion of community, like just the other day, I was meeting with someone who was in Europe and doing energy work with them. And they were expressing they didn't have a lot of like local community. I guess in the area, it's a little harder to find, people who are into these things. So that's really like the beauty of this stuff. Obviously, online stuff comes with positives and negatives.
True. True.
But there's a lot of beauty there. But going off of also what Joelle was saying about it being more powerful, it wasn't necessarily the symbols, but just more so the fact of like being in your own space. Obviously, this depends on, where you live. Like, if you're not in a great environment, it might not feel this way. But when you're in your own space, able to select, any crystals or just be in the comfort rather than, going to another physical location where you're not familiar and you're uncomfortable and there's strangers and things like that. Being able to really cater your space to what's going to make you most comfortable and most relaxed can really help you receive that energy more. Sometimes, everyone's different, right? Some people prefer in person, and that's totally valid. But being able to curate your space, and if you want to turn it into a ritual, have your gateway drugs of candles and crystals nearby. It can really help heighten the experience and allow you to access that on another level.
I absolutely love that. So if you're enjoying the Belief, Being, and Beyond podcast and would like to support it, I'm on Patreon. Just go to Patreon, Granddaughter Crow, or you can find it at granddaughtercrow.com. Thank you so much. That. I love that. So, and I think that there's a good point here is that just because you see an energy worker on social or online, check them out. And what I mean by that is not in your head. Obviously, use your head. Check them out in your gut. Check them out to see if you get the sensation of your heart opening, curiosity and interest, and then peruse what they do. Make sure that another thing is usually professional, and I'm not going to speak for all, but usually professional healers and readers aren't going to slide into your DM saying, I feel your energy, pay me and there's a curse on you, So, so be buyer beware of those, because I even get people that are like, oh, I heard your name and it just felt so powerful. And I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't the name Granddaughter Crow sound powerful? It's not like I'm, Karen Smith, from Iowa, or anything like that. But also, pay attention to that. I'd love to do a little round robin on just what I said about how you guys actually came to find each other, and what do you have to say about that buyer beware? And then Joelle, how did you know that Julia aligned with you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think we all, maybe not everyone knows, but there's definitely those scammers out there on Instagram that has forced many of us to pay for Meta Verified, unfortunately. And that really sucks, honestly, because I think also the other aspect of being an energy worker in any modality is being able to respect boundaries, right? And so that does mean that you're not going out and chasing people, but kind of, seeing and inviting people who resonate with you. And I totally vibe with what you say, because one of the things that I'm doing is when I used to do in person, a person used to be able to walk in the shop and talk to me and have a conversation and feel me out before they would proceed with energy work. And so like, what's the equivalent of doing that online? And there's a lot of different things. And I kind of landed on offering, I'm kind of opening this up, back to the public again, but having free 15-minute consultations just for people to pop in and talk and just see if we align, look at your energy centers a little bit. But I want to make sure like we're a match, both ways and stuff. So I'm 100% behind that, and because I think it's really important for having someone that holds space for you, and being able to be vulnerable and work through those patterns and changing those energetic vibrations, whether it comes from, generational patterns or past life stuff, or, traumatic events that have happened in your life. You really need someone that you feel comfortable and can facilitate that process for you to feel safe to open up in that way. So,
I
yeah.
love that. And before I toss the ball over to Joelle, what? Free 15-minute consultations. People, go check out the website and free 15-minute. And so, once again, I'll drop the website below, but that sounds beautiful. And I also love what you said about that also as a healer. You need to know if you align with the consumer, customer, person, whatever you want to, lovely being. And I really think that that's powerful, because people out there who are starting to do sessions and things like that, healing sessions, and offer these things, you have the right to say to a person, I'm not the healer for you. You have the right to have healthy boundaries. Here, I thought we were going to be talking just about the session, but now we're talking about, the ethics and how this works. So I really love that. People, check out 15-minute free consultation, yo. You can't lose with that. So, Joelle, like, how did you know with this buyer beware and all of that? And you really do a wonderful job. You guys, please, if you're digging Joelle's energy, Joelle is not just all about Joelle. Joelle is that Viola Witch on social, on Insta, and continuously shares and brings great people to great people, just like I love to do here on the show. So, Joelle, how did you know that Julia was a match?
Yeah, thank you for those super kind words. That's really nice. When I started my Instagram, I started it kind of as a way to just keep a visual record, like a visual book of shadows for myself, and just to kind of get myself out of my comfort zone. But then as I got to know the online witchy community a little bit better, in the online metaphysical community, I was like, wow, there are so many great people out here doing great things. And so I kind of was like, I'm going to make it my mission to be like the anti-troll, and just, just like go around, comment on everybody's everything. You're awesome. Keep up the good work, because it is hard work to do the things that authors and creators do. So I've really been enjoying that. And so when I follow so many energy professionals and so many energy healers. And, I'd been looking for some Reiki just for a while, but nothing really ever felt, it just didn't click, in my gut, that I was like, I don't know. I don't think I want to do that. And then, of course, I followed Julia already, and I really love her mixology work. I think it is so cool. And I got the Moon Magic mixology book. I might have mixed those around in order, but it is so fabulous, everyone. You have to get it, because the recipes are just off the hook. But there's so much more than just recipes. There's also a lot of lore and a lot of the mythology that surrounds the moon and alcohol. And if you don't drink alcohol, there's mocktail recipes too. There's lots of substitutions. So it's just like witchcraft, substitute what you don't have. So her content's always resonated with me. And I just felt, when I saw that post, I was like, ooh. And I thought, I was like, I'm surely gonna not be the only one who wants to take her up on this. So I was like, I don't know. And so then I put my phone down, and then 4 minutes later I came back, and I was like, I'm doing it. I'm gonna message her. So that's just how it happened. But I had already been following her. I was already familiar with her content. And so I knew that her interests aligned with mine, and that, she wasn't Julia Halina Hadas 001 period being a scammer. So I was like, yeah, let's go for this. And she was so responsive right away. And I appreciated that so much that I was like, yeah, I think this is going to be a really, really good match. And it was. So
I love that. I love that. So, and that's another thing, people. when you practice whatever type of spirituality you practice, because there's so many different little veins, you can always put out there to the universe, may I cross the path with the people who are going to be the most beneficial for my spiritual growth. And may I find this community. It's almost like I want to do this. I don't know if it's a book or a show. Spiritual algorithm. That's what I want. I know. If you think algorithm, you just like when you're lighting your candle with the crystals because you're just doing your gateway witchcraft drug, you can go, oh, dear goddess, gods, thank you, blah, blah, blah. Hashtag witch talk, hashtag lead me to the right people, so that's a whole nother thing. But I love that because you will cross paths, especially if you do it. The spiritual algorithm, people, that is recorded here. First time I've ever said it in public. So if that inspires you, let's race to get a book out, people. Let's race to get a book out on what that looks like. So anyway, let's kind of get into a little bit more meat of what is, I mean, yeah, we're talking concepts. Julia, what did you do? Like you set up like, what does this look like in person from your end? And then I'll kick the ball over to, sometimes I'm tossing the ball, sometimes I'm kicking the ball. Obviously, I don't play sports. I'm just Anyway, pass the baton over. So, Julia, what did you do from your end, and what does that look like? How long does it take, etc. And then, Joelle, what did you experience on your end? So, go ahead, Julia.
Yeah, so the first thing I do is obviously setting up the session, making sure I'm sending appropriate information. I think that's actually also another benefit of doing distance sessions is like I can send things out in written form so people can know before they even come to the session to make it as useful and as effective as possible, what to expect so they don't have those questions, anything they want to make them comfortable or anything in particular that they want to focus on. And then, leading up to the session, calling the quarters, connecting to, source, writing out the symbols and the person's name. I have like a little energy work board that I do. And so I put the person's name and the symbol underneath the board and just, channel some Reiki. And when they come into session, asking their permission to connect, looking at each energy center and seeing how that resonates, if there's anything they want to work on. And then from there, guiding them through meditation, connecting to their energy and working through energy center by energy center, clearing it out through a few different modalities, realigning it, adding a couple stones, and channeling that energy and sending it their way. I mean, obviously, there's like a lot of details. I don't want to go on forever, but one thing I also just really wanted to say too is just like, Joelle, you have such like a beautiful energy and the way that you speak, and it just reminds me a little bit of like, our session. I don't want to like, speak for you too much, but I think maybe let me know if it's not okay to share, but just as I was, working with Joelle, there were like a couple of like really special, interesting things in working with her. And that's the beauty of energy, right? Is it's like, I think how I tend to feel things is through energy rather than like hearing things in my head or, clairsentience and all those things, is feeling it. And really just tuning into someone's energy. You can pick up little bits and pieces as you're doing energy work. So in some way it becomes kind of like a reading at the end, but a little different, obviously, than working with the cards. And it was so beautiful because like I started doing energy work 12 or so years ago. And Joelle just had like, this is the first time I've seen this on someone, with this beautiful blue lotus flower just opening up at the throat, and it was just gorgeous. And it was like fascinating to me because that was the first time that had kind of like occurred, in a session for me, and seeing that particularly at someone's energy center, and then learning that Joelle does music. And obviously like just hearing you speak on here too, you're just like so eloquent. And I can't wait for you to, when you're talking about like sharing, being the opposite of a troll online and putting that positivity, and like it's just so clear that you have this beautiful purpose and using the ability to communicate in whatever form, to just spread some kind of message. And I'm just really excited to see, where that takes you.
I love it. So, Joelle, what happened on your end?
Yes. Thank you so much, Julia. That is seriously so kind. And it was such a great session because I left it feeling, of course, my energy felt amazing, right? I felt so calm and so just confident. And I just felt affirmed. That was the one word that I just kept leaving with, that I just felt so affirmed. And, for a distance Reiki session, I went into it with, you know, expectations that I just went into it with no expectations because I was like, I'm just ready to receive. I'm ready to experience this. And so that's what came through, was that I just felt so confident and so affirmed afterward, which was great because beforehand, my solar plexus chakra was like pretty blocked. So it was just wonderful to hear that and to experience that. And I loved that Julia, she always asks your permission to access your energy. She always asks your permission to, call in your guides, and asks your permission to, or she'll ask your preference. She asked me, hey, do you want me to tell you when I'm working on these energy centers, or would you rather just have me stay quiet so you can kind of experiment? And it was just so wonderful. And again, just completely affirming. That's the main thing I keep coming back to. It was awesome.
I love that, which is another key for people out there. When you get any energy work, make sure that they are asking you, and not just coming into your energetic field. There's things called healthy boundaries, and just as we have them in the third dimensional physical realm, we also can honor them in the mental realm, the emotional realm, and the spiritual realm. And so when a person is receiving healing, they should walk out of there feeling better than when they walked in. I have a lot of experience with these types of things, and I have bumped into people who I'm like, oh, yes, please go ahead. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm so drained. Get out of my space, sage, shower, you know. What else? Did I go to a Catholic priest and they got it out? I don't know. I'm teasing. But that's another thing. When speaking to a lot of just witchy people or any type of a spiritualist, occultist, whatever you consider yourself to be, what I would highly recommend is not just how you feel when you are with a person, how do you feel after you leave them? And is that energy still happening? And the reason why I say that is because a lot of times, you can feel great when you're in their energetic field, and then you walk away and you're like, sounds crazy. Maybe you were being a little glamored, but the fact that you walk away and are like, I feel affirmed. And this is how this came to be, is Joelle and I, we do some DMs and message each other, just talking about life and fun stuff. And it's a lot of fun. And all of a sudden, Joelle's like, oh my God, granddaughter Crow. And she just 5 minutes of, and then, I also want to clarify, I think when Julia is talking about energy centers, I think that she is talking about what other people would recognize as chakras. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. And then it was like, oh, and then this. And then I forgot what they said about this, but then this. And I got so excited listening to how empowered this made Joelle feel that I was like, crazy idea. Would you guys like to appear on Belief, Being, and Beyond? Because this is kind of one of those things to show what a good energetic relationship looks like. Just to say, Julia is in Pacific time zone, Joelle is in Eastern Standard Time, so it really doesn't really even matter. So, Joelle, could you share just a little bit more about, you were so excited and you're like, oh, granddaughter Crow, talk a little bit more about what happened to you.
Well, I loved it because she the music was great, and I know you said you changed it so that people could choose music, but I loved your music. It was so good. I was just like zenned out and ready to go. And so, I was just having this really pleasant meditation experience that she led me in. Her voice is perfect for guided meditations. Oh my gosh, I was just like, I could listen to it all day. So calming. You know, when you're talking on Zoom, you never really kind of know what you're going to get with volume, and it was perfect. It was like, I'm not going to fall asleep, but I'm also not going to be like startled out of this trance state. So immediately into his trance state, which was wonderful. And then I opted to have her tell me which energy center she was working on, just because it was my first time. And I was like, yeah, let's go for it. You know, if I had to do it again, I might choose differently next time just to see what it's like. And so each energy center, you know, I told her at the end that I kept coming back to that idea of receiving, because she had put that in her initial email to just say, you know, just focus on receiving. And I am in my head all the time. That's just the way I am. My mind is constantly running. And so when I sit down to meditate, I'm really focused on, okay, there's a thought, there it goes, rather than, you know, completely emptying my mind. And I kept thinking about, maybe I need to focus on this area. Maybe I need, and my guides were just like, relax, relax. She's got this. She knows what she's doing. Just receive. And that's what I did. And so it was the combination of being in the trance state, but also she used a rattle. Is it called a rattle? Yes. In shamanic tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So she used a shamanic rattle, and she actually also asked me as well if I wanted that or not. And I wanted to go for it because as a musician, I am so interested in how sound interacts with our energy and our magic. And so that was really cool. I loved the rattle. I thought the inclusion of that, it just felt so organic and so natural to be part of the process. So that was really cool. And yeah, it was just extremely relaxing. And of course, when we were done, she went through what the energy centers looked like after the session compared to before the session, which was so great. So I really got and it was basically almost like a mini, I don't know if you would call it this, Julia, but like a mini psychic reading as well, because you were telling me the different things that came to you as you were experiencing, you know, this healing. And it was so cool to hear the different things that she saw in different energy centers. And again, it just resonated so, so deeply with me. I felt like for the time that we were together, you know, the amount that I got out of it far outweighed just the short little itty bitty time that we were together. Truly.
I love that. I love it. Well, this has been so much fun. And I think that, you know, if we have some more ideas, you know, please toss them at me. You guys text the show, you know, if you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to, you know, comment. But if you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcast, there's a little thing that says text the show. Text the show. I will get your text. I will not see your name. So you could write your name or you could be anonymous, but I'd love to hear feedback on what types of things you guys want me to bring. So with that, I want to say, Julia, is there anything else that you would like to share with, you know, the Belief Being and Beyond podcast listeners beyond your 15-minute free consultation?
The first thing I just want to say thank you so much to you and also to Joelle for connecting and making this happen. Honestly, I feel so honored that you loved it so much, and everything you've shared and your beautiful energy. And I'm just excited to see what you do. And outside of that, I mean, I just think everything you mentioned, the free 15-minute consultations, I'm on Instagram at Julia Halina Hadas. And then I also have my magical mixology page, Witchcraft Cocktail. But I just sometimes like to keep those separate because some people like to refrain from drinks. I do non-alcoholic stuff. But yeah, so that's pretty much it.
I love it. Thank you so much. And Joelle, you gotta follow Joelle on Instagram if you're digging the vibe, because you're not only gonna listen to some viola, because every once in a while, you know, all of that, which is absolutely amazing, but you're also, like she said, anti-troll. She is going to share things that she has resonates with. And so it's kind of like a commercial for people. Joelle,
Basically, yes.
Is
I've
there any-
always wanted to be on TV and be an actor, so it's perfect.
I love it. I love it. Is there any last thing that you would like to share with the Belief Being and Beyond audience?
I just wanted to thank Julia for providing me with such an awesome session. It was so great. Thank you, Granddaughter Crow, for having us on. This has been amazing. And one thing that I did forget to say about the session that I loved so much was that for me personally, as a witchy person, as a witch, I loved that Julia knows about witchcraft and practices as well, because for our Reiki session, there was actually a point where she said, "Oh, well, this next Sabbath that's coming up after the autumn equinox, Samhain season is going to be a great time to do some of these things." So it also gave me a really clear vision of some steps I want to take in the future. So, and I'm sure if you are not a witchy person, but you want to do energy work, she does not have to pepper that in. She is amazing. She clearly can read the energy. She can read what, folks are comfortable with, and she'll be open to having a conversation about that. But for me personally, that was just so awesome. So thank you again. And I am so happy to have been here.
Oh, well, thank you both for being here. And thank you, listeners, for tuning into yet another episode of Belief, Being, and Beyond. Please like, subscribe, and share. Hit the notification button, but share this one with anybody that you believe is like wants to do energy work or is a reader that needs permission and needs that support, or share it online because we talked about a lot of good ethics here too. So also, I really appreciate you, the listener. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Please feel free to comment or text the show. And until then, I love ya and we'll see you on the flippity flip.